Giriparatari Yashodanandana Prajachanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajachanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giriparadari Gopi Jana Vallabha Giriparadari Yashodanandana Prajachanaranjana Yashodanandana Prajachanaranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Krishna Krishna Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Narayanam Namaskrityam
Narayanam Namaskrityam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Naram Chaiva Narottamam
Devim Sarasatim Vyasam
Devim Saraswatim Vyasam
Tato Jayamudhiraya
Tato Jayamudhiraya
Nastaprayeshu Vabhadreshu
Nastaprayeshu Abhadreshu
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhagavati Uttama Shloke
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki.
So we've been going through the prayers by Prahlad Maharaj given in the 5th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where the residents of Jambudweep are offering prayers to Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the residents on Harivasa, led by Prahlad Maharaj, are worshipping Lord Nrsingadev there. Each of the different regions of Jambudweep, they worship different forms of the Lord. But in Harivasa, then they're worshipping Lord Nrsingadev. So we're reading about this, we're going through these particular prayers which are offered there. So we're up to text number 10. Magara dur atmaja vita bandushu sango yadi syad bhagavat priyeshuna yaprana vritjaya paritushta atmavan sadyati yaduran natatendriya priya. Translation. Prahlad Maharaj and the residents of Harivasa pray to Lord Nrsingadev, "My dear Lord, we pray that we may never feel attraction for the person of family life, consisting of home, wife, children, friends, bank balance, relatives, and so on. If we do have some attachment, let it be for devotees whose only dear friend is Krishna. A person who is actually self-realized and who has controlled his mind is perfectly satisfied with the bare necessities of life. He does not try to gratify his senses. Such a person quickly advances in Krishna consciousness, whereas others who are too attached to material things find advancement very difficult. Srila Prabhupada's purport says, when Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was requested to explain the duty of a Vaishnava, a Krishna-conscious person, he immediately said, Asat Sangatyag e Vaishnava Achara. The first business of a Vaishnava is to give up the association of persons who are not devotees of Krishna and who are too attached to material things, wife, children, bank balance, and so on. Prahlad Maharaj also prays to the personality of Godhead that he may avoid the association of non-devotees attached to the materialistic way of life. If he must be attached to someone, he prays to be attached only to a devotee. A devotee is not interested in unnecessarily increasing the demands of the senses for gratification. Of course, as long as one is in this material world, one must have a material body, and it must be maintained for executing devotional service. The body can be maintained very easily by eating Krishna Prasad. As Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram Pushpam Palam Toyam Yome Bhaktya Prayachati Tadaham Bhakti Bharatam Ashnami Prayatatmana. If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, fruit, or water, I will accept it. Why should the menu be unnecessarily increased for the satisfaction of the tongue? Devotees should eat as simply as possible. Otherwise, attachment for material things will gradually increase, and the senses, being very strong, will soon require more and more material enjoyment. Then the real business of life, to advance in Krishna consciousness, will stop. Om Jnana Tivarandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chaksur Unmilitanyena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Bhayevacha Patitanam Pavanibhyo Vaishnavibhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasati Gaur Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare. So this is a very instructive prayer by Prahlad Maharaj and his followers there on Harivasa. And they're warning us about the attraction for the material objects. Now, here he mentions things like wife, children, friends. No, it's not that Prahlad Maharaj is against these things. Prahlad Maharaj himself, later after growing up, he also entered into family life. So it's not that family life is being condemned. But what is being condemned is excessive attachment to these things. There are two kinds of householders. There are grihastas and there are grihamedis. Now, grihastas, they're in a spiritual ashram. They live in the family life, but at the same time, their business is to make advancement, to progress in spiritual life, to become God conscious. Other people, the grihamedis, their business is simply envy. They're simply thinking about their material progress, how they want to satisfy the senses more and more. So that's a problem. You see, that's what's being condemned. That kind of family life, that is like a prison house, because a person is completely controlled by the mind and the senses. So it's very important that we have to learn to minimize, in some ways, to simplify our lifestyle. We want to be, as Prahlad Maharaj mentions here, controlling the mind and being satisfied with the basic necessities of life. Now, how many meals can we eat in a day, right? You can't eat 8 meals a day or 10 meals a day. Usually it's 3 meals a day. Some people 2 meals a day, or maybe you just have 1 meal a day. All right. 5 meals a day, really? Okay. Well, different people, different needs, according to your needs. But we do need to try to be satisfied with basic necessities of life, according to your particular nature. Some people need to eat more, and some people can eat less, according to their nature. But we don't want to just simply live only to gratify the tongue and to fill the belly. That is not the goal of life. We don't live to eat, but we eat to live. Right? There's a difference. So we do need to regulate these activities. Lord Krishna speaks, of course, about this in the Bhagavad Gita, that one who is a yogi won't eat too much or eat too little. You eat too much, it's not good. You eat too little, it's also not good. It has to be regulated. You eat too much, what happens? Diabetes. Very common in India especially. A lot of diabetes. Why? Prabhupada said, rich man's disease. They eat too much. And then you get this diabetes. And you get sick in the same way. If you eat too little, you get tuberculosis. You get TB. If you don't eat sufficiently, don't eat properly. So, just to maintain the health in the body, there has to be some proper regulation. But the point is, the goal of life is not just to satisfy the senses, but is to understand what is the proper level for our own advancement in Krishna consciousness. We should advance in Krishna consciousness. What we eat, it should be Krishna prasadam. It should be offered to Krishna. And we should be satisfied in the same way in terms of bank balance. We don't want to just work all day and all night just simply to increase the bank balance. Some people, some places, parts of the world, you'll find people, one job is not enough. They have a job in the daytime, they have another job at night, and then another job on the weekend. And this way their whole life is just work, to increase the bank balance. For what purpose? We don't know. So we have to understand that what is the real business in this human life. The real purpose is to make advancement in spiritual consciousness, to become Krishna conscious. So Srila Prabhupada begins his purport by pointing out how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu defined the duty of a devotee, how to recognize a Vaishnava. It happened that the devotee had come to Mahaprabhu and he asked Lord Chaitanya, he said, I am in family life, I'm very fallen, how can I make advancement? So Lord Chaitanya told him, you should chant the holy name and you should serve the Vaishnavas. So then the question came, how do I recognize a Vaishnava? And then Lord Chaitanya spoke about the importance of chanting the holy name. He described different levels of chanting. Someone may chant the holy name just one time. He's considered a devotee. He just chanted, he said Hare Krishna. He didn't chant regularly, doesn't chant a lot, but he chanted, he said Hare Krishna. His spiritual life has begun. But someone else, he's chanting regularly. And then there are other people who are even more advanced that simply by seeing them make other people chant the holy name. And in this way Chaitanya Mahaprabhu described how there are different levels of devotees. There is the neophyte, or someone who's beginning Krishna consciousness. There's the intermediate devotee, and there's the topmost devotee. So these devotees, they all have a duty. There's a duty to be performed. And Prabhupada speaks, he quotes Lord Chaitanya as he described the business of a Vaishnava. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, Asat Sangha Tyaga. Asat Sangha. Give up the association of the Asat. We're having Sat Sangha when we come here to the temple. This is Sat Sangha. But Mahaprabhu said, Asat Sangha Tyaga. Give up the association of the Asat. The asat means the material, the temporary things. Our business here, satsanga, sanatan dharma, right? Eternal activities are going on here. The worship of the Lord, the chanting of the holy name, the speaking from the scriptures, that is all satsanga. But Mahaprabhu said, asat sanga tyag. You have to give up the material. That is the business of a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava Achar. This is the qualification, the nature or the behavior of a Vaishnava. That he will give up the association of the material. And not only material objects, but materialistic people. We're careful about association. We don't want to associate intimately with materialistic-minded people. The verse actually goes on, Asat Sangha Tyag E Vaishnava Cha Stri Sangha Eka Sadhu Krishna Bhakti Ar. He's talking about people who are too much attached to the opposite sex. Then they're not really devotees. Too much attached to material things and material objects, money particularly, and then sex. These two things, this is the pillars of materialistic life. So we have to be careful to not get too much entangled and too much attached to these things. So Prahlad Maharaj prays that he can avoid the association of the non-devotees. And how do we avoid the association of non-devotees? We associate with the devotees. Avoid the non-devotees, but take the association of the devotees. Be attached to the devotees. That's very important for us. And the qualification, we want to get the association of devotees. And we don't just want only prasad. Sometimes we find people very attached to prasad. That's good in the beginning, but we have to also become attached to the devotees, not just only the prasad. So every temple we have that phenomena that whenever there's a feast or a big prasadam, there'll be a lot of people come. Right? When there's no prasadam, there's less devotees. But where there's prasadam, where there's going to be a big box for everyone, you get, like last night, we distributed a lot of prasadam. Of course, it's very good. It's very nice to distribute prasadam, and Srila Prabhupada really liked that, to see us distribute prasadam. It's very encouraging to see so many people eager to get the Lord's prasadam. And we hope they will also become more attached to hearing about Krishna and not only just taking prasadam. Prasadam, of course, is very important in the beginning. It does help people to get an attachment for the association of devotees. And Srila Prabhupada said like that when he introduced Krishna consciousness in the Western world, that it was prasadam that was the secret weapon. Prabhupada was an expert cook, and he could attract people just by his wonderful prasadam. Although the people were all they were not vegetarian, they were not very pure in their habits, they had so many bad habits, but they became very attached to prasadam. And because of their attachment to prasadam, they also began to hear more about Krishna consciousness. So that this is how Krishna consciousness often works. We give people prasadam, and we have chanting, we have nice kirtan, the holy name, and people get a taste for Krishna consciousness. The philosophy comes later, gradually, little bits, gradually. We start to take more interest in the philosophy. But in the beginning, it's usually the holy name and prasadam. That these two things are powerful weapons in introducing Krishna consciousness. So, we have a material body and we have senses. That's important to be understood. Prabhupada gives an example about sense gratification. He said it is like salt. If there's too much salt, taste is not good. But if there's no salt, taste is also not good. You have to have the right amount of salt in the cooking. The expert cook knows how to bring the best out in the food by utilizing things like salt. And sense gratification is like that. We have a material body, we have senses, and we have to have sense gratification. But there is a quality in sense gratification. Right? We don't want sense gratification like the hogs and the dogs, but we want the higher taste, the quality sense gratification. That comes about by purification. If we can purify ourselves by doing a little tapasya, then we can experience the higher taste. We have to maintain the material body, we have to satisfy the material demands, but they can be purified in Krishna consciousness. And therefore, Prabhupada quotes, he goes on to quote this verse, which we all know from the Bhagavad Gita, about offering simple things, a leaf, a flower, fruit, water, offering them. These things are everywhere, of course. And here also in Bahrain, you get also flowers. I'm very impressed to see the beautiful decoration. You know, I went to Europe last summer and I was surprised how difficult it is to get flowers there. In countries like Switzerland and Holland, flowers are so expensive that most of the temples, they only purchase flowers one day a week because the temple budget just doesn't allow it. And I know also my godbrother in Japan, Kavichandra Swami, told me flowers are phenomenally expensive there in Japan. And so you're very lucky here. You have so many flowers. You're decorating the altar profusely. The deities every day are decorated with beautiful garlands. It's also very nice. In countries like Europe, it's very difficult these days for them to get flowers. What usually is just on the weekend, you get a nice garland for the deities. So this is an opulence here that although it's hot, but still you have flowers available, fruits are available, water is available, and tulsi is growing also very profusely. So all of these things are very pleasing for Lord Krishna. It makes it very convenient for Krishna consciousness to have all of these things available. However, Prabhupada goes on, he said, why should the menu be unnecessarily increased? Why should the menu? An interesting way of describing it. He said, just for the satisfaction of the tongue. Of course, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he has given us that wonderful prayer, which is, we all know, it's one of the first prayers we learn when we come to Krishna consciousness, right? We learn Sharira Avijjaja. Because that's it. As soon as devotees hear that, generally we call that the wake-up prayer. You know, when we say Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudev, that's the go-to-sleep prayer. But when they say Sarira Avijjaja Prasadam, you know, everybody wakes up, you know. Has different effects on us, you know. So the first prayer we learn is this Sharira Avijjaja. Of all the senses, the tongue is the most voracious and difficult to control. It is very difficult to conquer over the tongue in this world. But you, dear Lord Krishna, are so kind. You have sent us this nice prasadam. So now let us take this prasadam to our full satisfaction. And by so doing, glorify their lordships, Sri Sri Radha and Krishna. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has given us this prayer, and Srila Prabhupada encourages us that before we take prasadam, we recite this prayer. Because although it's prasadam and it's been offered to Krishna, we often have material conceptions about prasadam. We think of prasadam as being something material, Oh no, I want this one, I don't want that one, Don't give me the, or give me the sweet, and don't give me the salty, and these things. We have material conceptions. Srila Prabhupada and Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, whenever their remnants were distributed, people would be sometimes picky about, give me that, I want that one, I want the pakora, I want the samosa, I want the sweet, And what they ordered to do was mix everything up. Mix up the curry and the sweet rice and the halwa all together. And then people shouldn't be fussy, they shouldn't be picky about what they want. Because it's all absolute. It's prasadam. It's all the mercy of Krishna. So this way we should eat not just to satisfy the tongue, but we don't just simply eat prasadam, we honor prasadam. We honor prasadam. It's a spiritual activity, right? We want to see it as part of our process of bhakti yoga. And when we honor prasadam, we are respecting Radha and Krishna, glorify their lordships, Radha and Krishna. So taking prasadam, very important activity. But Prabhupada says, devotees should eat as simply as possible. As simply as possible. As possible. In other words, some people need to eat more, some people can eat less. But don't try to become too elaborate in the eating process. Don't just simply eat and eat and eat. We want to honor prasadam, take it, relish it as the remnants from Lord Krishna. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it describes how Lord Chaitanya would take prasadam and he would say he could taste the saliva from Lord Krishna in the prasadam. So that kind of consciousness was there in honoring prasadam. So we're warned that if we simply become more attached to material things, if we don't control the tongue, right? The tongue, it's the center of the senses, the most difficult to control. And if we don't control it, we become more attached to material things. And then the senses become very strong. And we want more and more enjoyment. It's not wrong to want enjoyment, but we have to know where to find real enjoyment. Real enjoyment is found from the soul, on the spiritual platform, not just simply satisfying the senses, because the senses are never satisfied. They always want more. Just like eating, we always want to eat more and more. We know that we shouldn't eat more, but still the tongue would like to eat more and more. That's the nature. We have to therefore be very strict and regulate ourselves, minimizing the demands of the body. And we see wonderful examples of devotees in our Krishna conscious philosophy, how they lived and how they gave up attachment to the material senses. For example, in Chaitanya Lila, we have Koloveka Sridhar. Koloveka Sridhar was a very poor person. He was living a very simple life. he had a little piece of land, and on his land he had a few banana trees. So whatever income he could get was from his banana trees. He could produce some banana, sometimes you have banana flowers, sometimes bananas, and sometimes the trunk of the banana tree. And somehow Sridhar was producing some produce, and whatever income he could get, with whatever income he could get, every day he would spend 50% to worship Mother Ganges. Every day he must spend 50%. And Srila Prabhupada said, this is the standard. That in family life, you should be willing to give 50% for the service of the Lord. And Kulaveka Sridhar was doing like that. Whatever income he got, he would always spend 50% to go and worship Mother Ganga. How many of you can do that today? I was giving class in Dubai, Nectar of Instruction, and it talked about this, dadati, pratigrinati, the loving exchanges, giving charity, and Prabhupada talks there about 50%, that you should give 50%. And so I asked the students, can any of you give 50%? No one. Not one. They all laughed. They said, no way. Very difficult. But anyway, this is the standard. Actually, what you're meant to do. If you give 50% for the service of the Lord, then you minimize your demands. You live more simply, and you can be more peaceful. You don't have so many things to be attached to. But the more we increase our bank balance, and you increase your standard of living, you want more and more, and there's no end to it. And education, it's not enough going to India, my child has to go to America or England or somewhere else like that, and it's so much more money, and it's so many things, everything increases. We increase the standards, and the demands become greater and greater. So there's a need to try to keep life simple. And the way to keep it simple, you give 50% for the service of Krishna. That's one solution. Right? Tamal Krishna Maharaj, he was giving class one time in Hong Kong, and someone asked him, how can I make spiritual advancement? So he said, I will tell you, very simple. He said, all you have to, bring all your money, put it in the donation box here at the temple. He said, you'll make advancement. So that's one way. So, Kulaveka Sridhar was living so simply. And Lord Chaitanya used to come as a young boy, as Nimai Pandit. He would come and he would always argue with Sridhar about the price of his bananas. And he would say, oh, you're charging too much. And Kulaveka Sridhar would say, no, this is the price. My price is the regular price. It's even cheaper than other people. And Nimai Pandit would say, no, I'm a Brahmin and you're cheating me. You'll go to hell for this. Like this, he would argue with him just to test Kulaveka. And Kulaveka Sridhar would end up giving and say, just take what you want. Just take what you want and go. I don't want to argue with you. Like this. So Lord Chaitanya grew up, and at one point he was sitting on the throne in the home of Srivas Thakur, and he was revealing himself, he was revealing his divine position, and he was calling different devotees to come, and he was giving them benedictions. And so then he said to the devotees, he said, bring Sridhar here. And the devotees said, who? He said, Kulaveka Sridhar. They said, who's that? They didn't even know who he was. And Lord Chaitanya had to tell them where Kulaveka Sridhar lived. And he said, you go there, in the middle of the forest there's a broken down house, holes in the roof. It's a very, poor house, and you'll hear him chanting inside the house. From a distance you will hear him calling the holy name. So the devotees went looking, and sure enough, they could hear him calling the holy name. And they went into the house. They saw the house was very broken down, not a very well developed, very nice house, surrounded by a few banana trees. And they went in and they found Sridhar, and they requested him to please come and see Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lord Sridhar came with them, and he met Lord Chaitanya. And Lord Chaitanya then said to Sridhar, ask some benediction from me. He said, in the past I've always given you so much trouble and cheated you and deprived you of an income. Now ask whatever you want and I will give you. You want treasure? You want another wife? You want a beautiful home? What can I give you? And Sridhar looked at Lord Chaitanya and said, oh my Lord, why are you teasing me? I don't want anything. I am happy. Whatever income I get, I will always spend 50% to worship Mother Ganga. I am happy in this way. Lord Chaitanya says, Sridhar, look at your cloth. It's all ragged and it's got holes in it. You don't have any good cloth. Your home is all broken down. Let me give you some luxuries. Let me make your home, your life more comfortable. But Sridhar said to Lord Chaitanya, he said, the bird lives in a nest in the tree, and the king lives in his palace. Everyone suffers and enjoys according to their past. Why should I worry? He said, I'm happy. I have everything I want. I'm satisfied. I'm happy to worship Mother Ganga in my own little way. So this was Kulaveka Sridhar. Lord Chaitanya was so pleased. He was so much appreciated that mood, that he was satisfied. Satisfaction is one of the qualities of a Brahman. It's the quality of the mode of goodness, to be satisfied in whatever situation we are placed in. So sometimes Srila Prabhupada would go to Hong Kong and he would be received. One occasion he was received, they brought him in the Rolls Royce and they put him in the penthouse suite in Hong Kong. And the reporters came to interview Prabhupada, and they said, Swamiji, you came in the Rolls Royce and you're living in the penthouse suite in this big hotel in Hong Kong. Is this proper for a sadhu? And Prabhupada said to them, he said, if I sat under a tree with my bicycle, you would not come to see me. So Prabhupada said, I'm simply using these things to attract you so that I can tell you the message of Lord Krishna. But then Prabhupada left Hong Kong and he went to Bhubaneswar. And at that time in Bhubaneswar, Gaur Govinda Maharaj he'd recently taken sannyas and he was living in Bhubaneswar. and he had simply 2 mud huts. And he gave one mud hut to Prabhupada, and Gaur-Govinda lived in the other mud hut. And in this way Prabhupada was living in Bhubaneswar. And every day Prabhupada would take bath there from the well, and he would take the mud from the ground as soap. He said, this earth is very good for the body. And he would rub his skin with the earth there, and he said, this is a good soap. He said, you don't need to waste money on soap here. He said, simply take the earth and smear it on the body. And this way Prabhupada lived for many days there in Bhubaneswar and enjoyed very simple, natural life, living in a mud hut. So devotee is not attached. This is the point. That whatever is provided by Krishna, we accept it for Krishna's service. We don't necessarily always want to increase and get more. So Kolaveka Sridhar is a nice example. Another example, of course, was Sudama Brahman in Krishna Leela. How Sudama lived. He did not like to even beg. Although Brahmanas are allowed to beg, he didn't like to go and beg. And when he went in order to go and see Krishna, his wife had to they had nothing. His wife somehow managed to get some broken grains of rice from a neighbor. And Sri Sudama brought that to Lord Krishna. But actually Sudama had nothing. He did not like opulence. Lord Krishna, however, gave him so much opulence. Because Lord Krishna did not want to see him detached from all of this. So, another example, Suklambar Brahmachari. He was a brahmachari, and he also lived by begging. And sometimes he would not beg, he would just pick up the grains of rice in the street or in the fields. He would find broken grains of rice and he would pick them up and collect them. One day, Lord Chaitanya told Suklambar, I want to come and take prasadam with you. And Lord Chaitanya came and he took that rice with Suklambar. That rice which Suklambar had bagged, which he had picked up from the fields, it was all broken, it was the worst. And Suklambar had cooked it. Lord Chaitanya tasted it and said, oh, this is so wonderful. He said, this is the best rice I have ever tasted. Because it had been acquired in such an honest way. Lord Chaitanya was appreciating the simplicity, the beauty of that living by begging, by picking up the grains of rice from the field, that kind of madhukari. Again, also we have Raghunath Das Goswami. Of course, Raghunath Das is very special. He was from a very rich family. His father and his uncle were maintaining all of the Brahmins in Bengal. But Raghunath had no taste to enjoy that kind of life. He wanted to renounce everything. You know, people sometimes, they're so mad after money, they think money will give them happiness. Ambarish, Alfred Ford, who is the grandson of Henry Ford, who is Prabhupada's disciple, a few years ago his mother expired. And he brought his mother's ashes to Mayapur to put in the Ganga. And at that time, he told the devotees, he said, you know, one thing I learned from my mother was that money doesn't make you happy. That's something, what? You know, people are often surprised to hear this, but actually it's a fact. And you can ask many rich people about this, and they will tell the truth. If they're truthful, they will admit money does not make you happy. Alfred Ford, he was telling Ambarish Prabhu, he was telling about his mother. He said, my mother was never happy. She had so much money, but she was not happy. And so, a very interesting point to learn. Anyway, Raghunath Das renounced so much wealth to go to join Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when he was living in Jagannath Puri, first of all, his parents had sent money for him. And so he would put on a feast and feed the devotees. But then he sent the money back. He said, no, this is not good. So how was he eating? He would beg outside the temple. People would come out from the temple and they would have food, they'd bring prasadam, and he would beg. So he did that for some time, but then he was no longer there. And Lord Chaitanya said, what happened to Raghunath? Where did he go? And Swarup Damodar Maharaj said, oh, now he collects the rice from the drain. He goes to the drains where the pots are washed, and he collects all the rice which is washed down the drains. He collects it from the drain. He again washes it and dries it, and he takes this as his prasad. And Lord Chaitanya went and he found Raghunath, and he took some of that rice from Raghunath, and he said, you are having a feast, you're having nectar and not sharing it with me. And Lord Chaitanya took some of that rice also. So Raghunath then asked Lord Chaitanya to give, actually not directly, Raghunath, although he was a follower of Chaitanya, he never approached Lord Chaitanya directly. He was under the care of Swarup Damodar, and Swarup Damodar was the secretary of Lord Chaitanya. So Raghunath one day he asked Swarup Damodar, are there any instructions for me from Lord Chaitanya? So Lord Swarup Damodar then asked Lord Chaitanya to give some instructions for Raghunath. And Lord Chaitanya said, tell him that he should not eat opulently. He should eat simply. He should eat to maintain body and soul together. And he should not talk like the common people, and he should not hear what the common people have to say, and nor should he dress in an opulent manner. He should dress very simply. So in this way Lord Chaitanya was giving instructions to Raghunath, which are meant for a renunciate. They're not meant for everyone. Those kind of instructions. That's not for everyone. But for someone who is a very renounced person, that they can do like that. You could say Babaji, right? The Babajis, they behave, they're meant to be totally renounced from the material life. So, in our Krishna consciousness movement, we don't have any Babajis. There was one, at one point, there was one devotee. What happened was, he was a young American man, and he had he told people that he said, the doctors say I have some disease and I'm going to die very soon. So he was going to colleges and preaching. And he was preaching to the students about how he was preparing for death. So it happened, all the devotees came to Mayapur and they brought him with him to Mayapur and they told Prabhupada that this young man, that he's got some disease, is going to die. So they asked Prabhupada, can he take sannyas? Can we give Prabhupada, can you give him sannyas? But Prabhupada said, well, if he's got some disease, he's going to die very soon, it's not very appropriate for him to be a sannyasi. Sannyasis are meant to travel and preach and make propaganda. So Srila Prabhupada said, if he's going to die soon, what he should do, he should simply take shelter of the holy name. And he can go to the Ganga and sit by the Ganga every day and chant Hare Krishna. And Prabhupada said, this is like Babaji, like a Babaji. So this young man was given the Babaji dress. You know, Babajis, they wear white. White is the color of the Paramahamsas. This saffron, this is for material world. I'm in the material world, but the people wearing white, they're the Paramahamsas. They're meant to be transcendental. So the Babajis, they wear white. And this man he put on the Babaji vesh and he started sitting and chanting Hare Krishna, chanting rounds all day. But after some time he went to see a doctor again. The doctor told him, nothing wrong with you. You're not going to die. Not right away. Your health is not so bad. And so when he heard that, he gave up the Babaji and went back to America. So Prabhupada said, no more Babajis. That was the end of the Babaji in ISKCON. So we're not meant for renouncing like that. We don't follow Raghunath Das Goswami. We're not able to imitate that kind of behavior. But at the same time, we do need to try to minimize the demands of the body. And the demands of the body particularly begins with the tongue, regulating the tongue. And that regulation means taking only Krishna Prasad. That's the beginning. And in the beginning, devotees will take more prasad. And devotees will take, Prabhupada used to say, up to the neck. Eat up to the neck, fill the belly with prasada. But gradually, that also has to be reduced. And we understand this is not the best way for our health. If you just simply fill the belly, you won't be able to do so much work. You put too much in the belly, then you want to sleep. And so it's better not to eat too much. You want to keep the body fit and healthy so that we can be active for the service of Krishna. That is important, that we eat so that we can serve Krishna. And by doing service for Krishna, then we advance in Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada liked to see us all active in Krishna's service. He used to ask, how many books have you distributed? How many devotees have you brought? How many new devotees have you got? And how many properties have you acquired? In this way, Prabhupada would judge how much we're doing for the service of Krishna. So of course here also, you're doing these things. You're expanding the Krishna consciousness movement. We're distributing books profusely when we get the opportunity. We try to distribute more books, particularly Nowadays we like to give sets of books. You can give sets, Bhagavatam, Chaitanya Charitamrita, and these things. It's very pleasing to distribute a set of books. We like to put a set of books in every home. So that's very pleasing, and that helps us to advance and give Krishna consciousness to people. The more we give the mercy, the more we get the mercy. So we distribute books and we try to introduce Krishna consciousness to more people. There's always new people coming around, although this is a small country with a small population, but still there's a lot of people who don't know about Krishna consciousness. There's so many people around. So there's so much to be done. And we try to also expand the Krishna consciousness movement by arranging nice facilities. We should have some nice place for our preaching programs. You know, if we give the books, it's very nice, people give the books. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Prabhupada, he did not worry much about buildings. He liked more to distribute books. And he thought if people get a book and they come to Krishna, they can be changed. Big temples bring in a lot of people, but don't necessarily make them very advanced in Krishna consciousness. But if someone gets a book and they read the book, their life can be changed. The books are more important than the temple. And if someone reads the book and becomes impressed with the philosophy, then that is a very good sign. To make one devotee like that, very nice. So Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, he did not worry much about big temples. He didn't build any big temples. One of his disciples built a big temple in Calcutta, but he himself did not build. What he did do was print books. And he even printed a daily newspaper. He would buy a printing press. He wouldn't, if he got a building, he'd get a printing press to put in it so that he could print books. And that was the real business in preaching Krishna consciousness. So that simple life, dedicated to missionary activities. Prabhupada taught us, he said, whatever income you get at the temple, in Prabhupada's time, he said, 50% must go for book distribution. And he said, you keep the books. He said, even you don't distribute, you keep the books. He said, even then in the future, you may have no money, you always have the books. You can go out and distribute books, make some money. Like this, Prabhupada, this was Prabhupada's teachings to us. He wanted us to live simply. And if we had too much money, if we had a lot of money, Prabhupada would spend it. If we had too many devotees, he'd take them away, send them to India. You have so many young men here, send them to India for preaching. Like that. Keeping simple living, I'm thinking. Are there any questions? Everybody agree, huh? Yes, Manaji?
Raghunath Das Goswami, he ate he picked up the grains and then he cooked and he ate. That he did after he got the instructions from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu or before that?
I think it was before.
And then, Maharaj, why do we have to do go to such extreme way of austerity? Is that very much needed even if one is in such a high level?
Well, in one way, it's showing great respect for the Lord's prasad, because that rice which he was collecting, that was all the prasadam of Lord Jagannath. So he is honoring the prasadam, which is otherwise it's going to be wasted. So it's like a respect for the prasad that he was doing like that. Of course, that extreme, I said, this is for somebody who is totally renounced, the Babaji, that they have given up the material world. So it's the highest level of renunciation, that they have no attachment at all for the material world. So we don't encourage that kind of behavior, but some people, like Raghunath Das, he was a very special devotee. And Lord Chaitanya appreciated that, and he kept that mood of renunciation throughout his life. It was not that he just did it one time, but he was like that. And he lived to a very old age. And people often wondered how he could survive. But somehow he did. He survived to an old age.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you, Maharaj. Maharaj, one more question. Regarding this contentment, satisfaction, at the present age, everything is so expensive. So where do we draw the line to be satisfied, contented with whatever we are earning? Because even if you see rice, dal, everything is so expensive. So where do we actually draw a line? What is simplicity? What exactly is that simple living? I just want to know.
Well, the point is we have to learn to live with the basic needs. As you say, everything is expensive. So, okay, we don't need it. It's too expensive. Why worry about it? What you do need? You need some rice and dal. Okay, basic things. Yeah, get the basic things, and that's what we need. These things, what's basic. We need some rice and dal, you need to eat, you need some water, you need a little bit of fruit sometimes, these things. But we don't need always to eat luxuriously. We can be satisfied with what our budget allows. Just that is what's provided for us by the grace of Krishna, according to our own capabilities. If we're finding everything to be very expensive, then maybe we're trying to enjoy too much. Maybe we need to minimize the demands. If every day you want to eat sweets and cashew burfi and whatever these things cost, it's so expensive. But if you just simply live on rice and dal and a little vegetables and stuff, then it's not so bad. But if every day you have to have malpuras and sandesh and burfis and all kinds of sweetmeats, we can minimize the demands. Prabhupada asks, he said, we have rice, dal, chapati, sabji, one every day. Simple breakfast, and breakfast would be a little cereal usually, or some chana, and an orange. And then for lunch, rice, dal, chapati, sabji. And then you don't eat at night. all eat at night, right? That's another problem, eating at night. Right? But actually eating at night is not... Prabhupada taught that no grains after 4 o'clock in the afternoon. After 4 in the afternoon, no grains. And we had one Chinese doctor came to Malaysia. He came to treat Jayapataka Swami Maharaj. He was a famous doctor from China. And he said, I can cure any disease if you will not eat after 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That's the challenge. And the Buddhist monks in Thailand, the Buddhist monks, they take 2 meals a day. They don't eat in the afternoon. People often will ask me in Thailand, how many meals do you eat a day? They want to know, and if you say 3 meals, well, you're not a monk. But 2 monks will eat they'll eat in the morning, they eat midday, they don't eat in the afternoon or evening. It's controlling the tongue. So, you can minimize it like that. You can do without things like satellite TV. You spend a lot of money on these things, we can do without satellite TV. You have more time to read Srimad Bhagavatam.
This is only for renunciant, he was very strict, Maharaj, Srimati Mahaprabhu. For the Ragastas and for Pundarika.
What?
Honoring Mahaprasad.
Honoring prasadam?
Yeah.
Well, it's for health also.
Pundarika is very big.
Who? Was he eating every day? How many meals was he eating?
No, but he was very much luxurious.
Yeah, he was a landowner. Look what happened to him. Jagannath came and beat him. He got slapped by Jagannath, right? So, he's a special case, Pundarik Vidyanidhi, yeah. So,
Hare Krishna Maharaj, please accept my respectful obeisances of Krishna Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Maharaj for such a wonderful class. Maharaj, in the class you said Kolamicha Sridhar, he used to worship Mother Ganges. So we hear about so many devotees, but I think it is he who worships Mother Ganges. So can you please explain why he was worshipping Mother Ganges? And second question is, you told about the cloth, the color saffron is taken by what we thought that brahmacharis and sannyasis took saffron because they are renounced. But today for the first time we got the reversed. So can you please explain? Thank you, sir.
the first time you heard that, really? Yeah, well, actually saffron is the color of people in the material world. Brahmachari, sannyasis, they're material ashrams, right? You're if you're thinking you're brahmachari or sannyasi, that's the material platform. Mahaprabhu said, Naham vipro na chanara napi vaisho na sudro naham varnina chakriya patyano. I'm none of these things, you see? So, the transcendentalists, the paramahamsas, they will wear white. They have no attachment for the material world. So the Goswamis of Vrindavan, the Babajis, you see in the pictures of the Goswamis, they're always in white. They're not in saffron. Because saffron dress means material world, belong to an ashram. But the Babaji, they're transcendental to all that. And worshipping Mother Ganga, just like we worship Tulsi. We worship Tulsi Devi. Some people worship Mother Ganga. You can worship Mother Ganga also for pure devotion. Pundarik Vijayaniri was a great devotee of Mother Ganga. He would never bathe in the Ganga. He would come and offer his obeisances to Ganga. He didn't like to go and bathe in the Ganga. He felt very bad to see people bathing in the Ganga. So, some people worship Lord Jagannath in the form of wood, other people worship the Lord in the form of Ganga, water. So, we worship Mother Ganga to get devotion for Krishna, not for material purposes. Okay?
Then Chaitanya Mahaprabhu did not wear saffron. He was always in white.
Mahaprabhu?
Because he took up sannyas because people were not listening to him, they were not following his instructions. But after he became a sannyasi, did he wear saffron then?
Oh
Because
yeah.
we don't see any pictures that he's wearing saffron.
No, usually he was wearing saffron. He was a sannyasi. We had usually
Yeah, there are pictures.
he was sannyasi, he was in the Vainu Shankara, so they were saffron. Not white, but the Babaji Vesh, you see Babajis, they will just stay in one place usually and chant the holy name. But the saffron devotees, Ramanujacharya, Madhvacharya, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they were all preaching, they were saffron. Okay.
Thank you, Maharaj. Hare Krishna. From today's class, we understand simple living is the best to advance into the spiritual. Hare Krishna. We will thank Maharaj for nice class. All these 4 days we had a wonderful class from Maharaj. By thanking him, by giving a one-time Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. And today we